The following is a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio. From hot dogs to cool kitties, this is Darkside of the Pooch.
Happy New Year and welcome back to Darkside of the Pooch. He is Rossbridge Animal Hospital's Dr. Rat Stewart. Joins us to the left-hand side of the screen. I'm Tony Curry. Of course, you can hear the show at least 5 days a week. Brought to you by Sasquatch Toys and Comics and Ed's Pet World. Both those fine establishments down there in the Homewood, the old comic place now, the Sasquatch Toys and Comics. They are blowing it off the doors. They opened up last October, and of course, they had their first Christmas. They did really, really well. And of course, Darkside the Pooch. We're very, very happy to be part of the partnership that goes along with that. They got everything from Lego toys to Star Trek stuff to watches to things that are unboxed, you name it. They buy, sell, and trade as well, so check that out. And of course, we couldn't do without the man on my left. He getting it done every single day. Happy holidays, my friend. I'm glad you got through them. You look good. You look like maybe you put on maybe 2 or 3 pounds. I was going to say, I think everyone says you put on 8 to 10 pounds. I think you look maybe 2 pounds, a pound on each cheek. You look like a little squirrel, little chipmunk, but you look fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. It's good to be back, and it's always a great time. You know, for us, it's a great season. You know, professionally and personally, and I know for some people it's not. So, you know, but hopefully all our listeners were in a good space the last couple of weeks.
We do it through emails, info@tonycurryradio.net. We used to just do shows with no emails at all, and now it's almost exclusively emails because we have so many great questions. Info@tonycurryradio.net, info@tonycurryradio.net. We'll get into some of those coming up. I always have a couple of interesting stories, but obviously I want to get into the cold. I know it's something you're asked about a million times. But it is below freezing as we do the show here on January 6th, and it appears it's going to be really, really cold, maybe a blast of some snow coming in here maybe on Friday, which is kind of exciting. We had some snow flurries out in my neck of the woods early this morning, which was kind of cool. How cold do our pets get? What do we need to be thinking about our pets? Can they be outside for an extended period of time? I've seen dogs running in snow for 3 or 4 hours. They don't seem to have any issues at all. Yet my dog goes outside, hikes a leg for 3 seconds. He's coming and he's trembling. He's freezing to death. My old one, the other dog, the Havanese, man, I mean, he'd get outside for like 2 or 3 seconds and he was wanting to come back inside. What's the differences? Why do some dogs get colder than others? How much does the coat protect them? Give me the whole rundown.
Well, small dogs, you have to be more careful with small dogs, whether they have a lot of fur or not. You still have to be more careful with small dogs because they can't maintain their body temperature as well. Small dogs just don't. So if you have a small dog that has short hair, then they really need to, not spend a lot of time out when it's this cold. Larger dogs can maintain their body temperature longer, and especially ones that are built for the cold and the snow and stuff, you know, like huskies, other breeds that have double coats. Those are, I'm not going to say that they're resilient, to extreme temperatures, but they can hang out longer than that. So you just got to be aware. I can't give you a certain time, but you want to be careful with small dogs with short hair or not much hair. And you can take a little more time out there with large dogs that have a lot of hair. But you also, if you think about dogs like golden retrievers, they're big dogs that have a lot of hair, but they don't really have an undercoat. I mean, their hair almost looks like our hair.
Yeah.
Like human hair. So, it can be a little bit misleading. But dogs with that, those double coats, they can spend more time outside.
Terry in Birmingham, info@tonycurryradio.net. Love the show. Love Darkside of the Pooch. So happy to see you guys are back. Why don't more dogs get frostbite? That was going to kind of go along with what I was asking you. I know we had, and this is the first time that I really saw this with my dog. For the first time, 58 years old. I never seen my dog not like pavement as much as he did this year. For some reason, he was actually like, it was almost like a cat. It was almost like you could tell his paw pads were getting too hot. Even though I'd push him into the grass, he'd still want to get back on the road. But why don't more dogs, since we're worrying about their pads when they get too hot, why don't they get too cold?
Well, because of the tissue that makes up their feet, it's easier for them to get burned because it's still exposed tissue, but because of the thickness of it, and how the blood supply, how the blood supplies that area, they don't really get frostbite like we would. I mean, if you look at their their toe pads and their paw pads, I mean, it's almost like they're wearing a shoe.
Yeah.
So that's why you don't. It can burn, but it doesn't really get cold as much as our foot would.
Do we need to worry about getting the snow out between their toes if we live in a snow-driven area?
No, I mean,
No.
their body temperatures. Most dogs are over 100, normally, and so, snow's going to melt even faster on them than it does in us.
Yeah. All right, great. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Saw this interesting story yesterday that the AKC has just awarded another breed. This is now the 202nd breed that is recognized by the AKC. Did you hear about this? Do you know what this is? The brand new breed. Now, along with being a brand new breed, and obviously it takes sometimes years of development to make this happen. Now this dog can be not only registered, but it can also be recognized at, of course, these big dog shows. The AKC has recognized the Danish Swedish farm dog as the 202nd breeded dog. Did you know how many breeds there were, official breeds?
No clue. And I would have thought 200. I mean, it seems like a lot of dog breeds.
That seems like a lot of dog breeds. What's crazy is, and it's the article I was reading earlier today, there are at least 400 other breeds that are not associated with the United States of America or the western part of the world that are recognized by some breeders in other parts of the country. So you could make an argument there are literally 600 different breeds of dogs. And I don't know how much you know about breeds. I know you're a guy taking care of dogs. You don't really look at the breeds. And we were talking about Scotties and stuff the last couple of times with the show. But people are always saying, are dogs that are full breed or whole breed, are they better dogs than mutts? Can you give me some examples of, first of all, some of the coolest breeds you've ever dealt with, some of the coolest breeds you've ever seen, and some rare breeds, perhaps some dogs? I saw a white Scotty the other day, and it made me just fall in love. I love Scotties. I hadn't seen a Scotty in a long time for some reason, and I saw this white Scotty, and I was like, that is the most beautiful dog I've ever seen. It made me want to get a white Scotty. But can you tell me about some of the breeds you've dealt with and some of the rare breeds you've seen?
Well, I mean, I think probably some of the breeds that we would say are less common, we would people would say, oh, well, that's not very rare. But I mean, some dogs that you used to see all the time, we don't see them anymore, and it's because the world has been overtaken by doodles. But some breeds that you see all the time, you do not see anymore are Dalmatians. Yeah, I can't tell you the last time I saw a Dalmatian.
We have a Dalmatian in our neighborhood, but and when you see it, it's just beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous.
I don't see any greyhounds. I have not seen a greyhound in 4 years.
And you know what? We used to have greyhounds here when we ran greyhounds at the Birmingham race course, because you could actually go there and adopt those animals. And all I heard was how wonderful they are as an adopted pet. You'd think they just want to go running and chasing everything. They don't. They're very, very docile. And they're very laid back. What other breeds? What have you had? What's a good breed that you were actually just titillated by, that you were just tickled by to see walking into your shop? You've had to have someone that, like, you just hadn't seen one in a while, a Weimaraner or something, just something just like off the wall that is really cool.
A Chinese crested.
Okay.
So you know what those are?
I don't.
Okay. They are virtually hairless except for the top of their heads and their ears and usually their feet. And otherwise they're totally bald.
Are those the ones that I've always known as the ugliest dogs?
Yeah. But the one that you see as, the world's ugliest dog or whatever, like that dog is super ugly. They don't all look like that. I mean, they're actually really, really cute. But one breed that I keep going back and forth in my mind that I want, and I can't tell if I really do or if I just want one because I've literally never seen one in person, is a Mexican hairless or a Xolo Quintal.
Really?
Yeah. So those are kind of like Chinese crested, except they have no hair at all. And they're really darkly pigmented. Mm-hmm. And some of them are big. Some of them get 50, 60 pounds. And those things, they look like hellhounds. I mean, really? they look like they will neuter you if you look at them wrong. Like they will be the ones doing the neutering.
Really?
and not you. Yeah, they're. I mean, just like
What
they're
are
just
those
so awesome.
chupacabras? What are the chupacabras?
Chupacabra.
Chupacabras? Do they look like chupacabras? Don't they look like? Don't
No,
they
I think I
hairless?
think chupacabras are like part goat.
Yeah, but aren't they hairless chupacabras? And they're kind of
Maybe
nasty looking
so.
too. Yeah, and they can get pretty
Yeah,
big
maybe
too.
so.
It
I'm gonna
sounds
pull
like
one up. I'm gonna get one on my phone. I'll put it on the camera
it
here.
seems like it would be a dog that would be very difficult to catch too if it started getting the runs and it just started doing the dog crazies. That'd be kind of crazy. Speaking of dog crazies, Troy in Birmingham wants to know, why do dogs get the dog crazies?
Oh,
Mine did it.
yeah.
Mine did it this morning. I let him outside. I knew it was 28 degrees outside and I knew he was going to do it. And it was the most hilarious thing. And he just ran like 4 or 5 laps like his pants were on fire in the
Mhm.
backyard, took a major dump, then came inside and was just all super happy. What is it about cold weather and dogs that give them the crazies?
Well, I think my dog likes it because he runs back inside when it's time to come in, like he's got the crazies.
Yeah,
So my dog is excited that he gets to come back inside.
there you go.
So I don't know if it's cold and they know it's cold and they're maybe trying to warm their muscles up, and so they're out there running really fast, or if it just feels like it's good, it rejuvenates them. It's kind of like jumping in an ice bath or something.
Yeah.
So, but my dog does it too, but he's doing it when he gets inside.
We talk about cryotherapy. You ever done cryotherapy?
I've not personally, no.
It is. If you ever get a chance to do it, just do it one time. It's amazing. Basically, it restricts your blood cells to the point where they get so tight, and it's like negative 380 degrees, something like that. You have to put socks on certain parts of your body, on your hands and your feet, and then you're only in there for like 2 or 3 minutes. And when you get out, your blood just flushes. And it feels like you could run like 93 miles an hour. I mean, it's just, and you want to run like 93 miles an hour, no matter how you could be in constant pain, chronic pain your entire life. And at least for the next 2 or 3 minutes, man, your body's just flushed with this. And it's just wonderful. It's worthy to do it just one time. It's super expensive, but I know it's supposed to be great for therapy as far as injury and stuff like that. But it's amazing. So I
Maybe
can
that's why
imagine
they
that
do it.
maybe that has something to do with it too.
Here,
Maybe
look at this
maybe.
dog. You see this?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's a good looking dog.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah, that's the
Mexican
kind of
hairless right
dog.
there.
That dog could have red eyes. So that dog had red eyes. The ears. That's a good looking dog though, man.
Yeah, I think they're cool. Now you can get super ugly ones. Like here, look at this one. This one's super ugly.
Yeah, it seems like it's still it's still not an ugly dog. It's got a mohawk. It
Yeah,
seems like the ones I've seen that are always the ugliest dogs. They got a tongue issue.
they got
The
that
tongue's
tongue.
always hanging out and stuff like that. So, do you have any Scotties on your
Oh
list?
yeah, we see a ton of those.
Yeah, a lot of Scotties. Okay, well,
Yeah.
I want a dog that people have a ton of. Is there a particular Scotty I could get that's a little rare?
Probably like if you can find like one that's not solid color,
Okay.
like a kind of like a dapple, those exist.
Okay.
That'd be pretty unique.
Okay, and is that something that you can find, or is it just like once it pops out that it's dapple?
No, you could find it. They come like they're like that at birth, or you could go like all out and just get a standard size one, and those are massive.
Yeah,
You
those
really
are
stand out with that.
those are some pretty big dogs. Yeah, I don't think I'm not ready to go big dog
Not in the
again.
market for that.
No, no. Big dog equals big poop. Bill in Birmingham wants to know: we have a flu season. Do animals have flu seasons? We talked about this earlier in our show. And thanks again for all the great emails. We haven't done emails in about 2 or 3 weeks, so we could do emails from here until next Friday if you wanted to. But we've had a lot of questions about the flu season for dogs. It's been kind of running rampant over the last couple of years. Do they have flu seasons?
The flu season is really not associated with like seasonality as far as temperatures go, but you can think of it as seasonal because usually you're going to see that at times where people are boarding their dogs heavily.
Yep.
So it may seem like that, during Christmas, that's flu season for dogs, or during Thanksgiving or during the summer. Well, it's not so much that has anything to do with the time of year. I mean, if people took a lot of trips in February, then you'd see it in February.
Okay.
But it's when all the dogs are, confined to smaller areas like boarding facilities, and they pass germs back and forth, rampantly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Stylish from Hueytown wants to know about cats in cold weather. And again, we're going back a couple of weeks here because we had a cold snap a couple of weeks ago. What's the difference between our dogs and cats? I still have not seen my cat. It's been now, what, 3.5 years? I did see a cat look just like Happy Jumpy Cat a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, is that you? And I said its name, and it looked over at me. But again, you think you just call a cat, it will always look over at you. So I don't know. But it's the first time I've seen a cat look like Happy Jumpy Cat, look like it lost a few pounds. I'm hoping it's still with us. But in cold weather, if you have an outdoor type of cat, you feed it outside, it stays outside. Is it important once it gets below 32 to make sure it's inside? What can you do? I know a lot of people like to put heating blankets out in their areas for their cats. There's different ways to protect our cats in cold weather.
The good thing about cats is that they're pretty resourceful, and they can get into spaces that dogs usually can't. So cats can usually find a warm enough place. But yeah, you still have to be careful because, like we talked about at the opening of the show, they're small. Now they have a lot of hair, so they do have some insulation there. Um, but if you have an outdoor cat and it's going to get as cold as it is in the next few days, then it's really great to find a heating source for them if they stay outside. You put them in the garage, or you can get like a heating lamp for them. Same kind of stuff that you would use for like reptiles, but you just have to be sure that it's not too hot. But cats are pretty smart, and if it's too hot, they're going to move away from it until they're comfortable.
Have you had the cat in the car engine issue before?
I have not.
It seems like almost every kid has one of those. We had one of those in our neighborhood. I remember that it's obviously
Crank it up.
you get home and it's really, really warm in there, and a cat gets in there, falls asleep, and next thing they go out and come. But they also like to sleep on the rims, the tires, the top of the tires, which get really warm.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something that if you have an outdoor cat that is looking for a place to stay warm, and you just fired up the car and you want to go back out there and run to the store, you just may want to consider that. Maybe go out there and make some noises just in case it's tucked up underneath your hood, because it's always been something we always had issues with.
Yeah, I think using lamps probably better than using blankets.
There you go. All right. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. I did something on a show last week that got a lot of talk. We actually got some national coverage out of it. I was on with Kip Kiefer. We talked about all the rock and rollers we lost in 2024. Phil Lesh. We lost Quincy Jones, Greg Kinn, Dickie Betts.
I was going to say Dickie Betts. He was like right on the right tip of my tongue.
And it really wasn't one of those, thank goodness, it wasn't one of those wow years where we lost we didn't lose really any rock and rollers that we thought we would not miss that we did. It wasn't a Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, Prince kind of year, which is great. But I came up with a list of rock and rollers. Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, Eric Clapton, Rod Stewart turns 80 on Friday, which is hard to believe. Yoko Ono's 91. Willie Nelson.
Keith Richards is always on the list.
Keith Richards is 84. Mick Jagger's 82. And so we went through a list of these rock and rollers, and we were asking people how they'll respond when you hear that Paul McCartney has passed away. Sometimes you'll respond if Paul McCartney is 92 and he passes away. Certainly it will take up a lot of news space because he's one of the greatest writers of our time, but it'll also be somewhat expected because he'll be 92. We have a question here from Betts, speaking of Dickie Betts, but Betts wants to know what rock and rollers will really affect your life when they pass away. Knows you're a big Fish fan, by the way. Betts says he loves the Fish thing.
Yeah, when one of those guys go, that will probably affect my life more than any other person, because I still spend time, going to see that band. So it'll really, my hobby will in some ways, go away. But I think that when people like Paul McCartney, when he does pass away, people have so many memories bound up in him and his music, and in some ways, those memories take a hit. And that's what's really hard, because, we have these great memories that go along with the music. The music is a soundtrack to our lives. Mm-hmm. And when the person who writes that music dies, it, in a way, it feels like, the memories kind of die, or at least you have some finality that, okay, well, that artist isn't going to make music anymore. And I don't really have the hope that I'm going to be able to make memories to their new music. So for people who do love music and love certain artists, that can be like a really, somewhat of a depressing thing. That's why people still go to Graceland.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why people still cry over Elvis.
Yeah, I mean, there were two other ones on this list that I thought were really interesting. Frankie Valli is still alive at the age of
Yeah.
90, and what Frankie,
I
a
heard
lot
he
of,
was still touring.
he is still touring. He's still doing his thing at the age of 90. And what people don't realize is, he was just as successful as a solo artist. He had 9 top 10 hits, including, of course, a Grease, which was a huge song. It wasn't really what it bounced back then because it was a 70s song, but it was pretty big because he was such a huge star in the 50s and 60s with that falsetto. And, Sherry. And I mean, gosh, some of those songs were, you knew it was Frankie Valli when he sang those songs. Along with the Four Seasons, which are big. And another one I think is just really interesting, and it really made me ponder, maybe want to do some research, was Brian Wilson of the Beach Boys.
Mhm.
Brian Wilson's another one of those guys. I think he's still touring. He's 82. He's been banged up for so
He's
long.
an
Has had so
old
many medical
82,
issues.
man.
Yeah, he's
He's
a
an old. If
really
you can
old
even
82.
like say that, like 82 is old to begin with, but Brian
Yeah,
Wilson's
and so
old
many
82.
people have made so much money off his music and off his writing and off his styles. I don't even know. He's one of those guys where I don't even know if he still knows he's alive. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just kind of one of those situations. But he just he wrote and he stood for such an incredible genre of music that California girls beach music that was just a kind of, when it took off, it was kind of like no one had ever heard music like that before. Pet Sounds, I can remember that album, and I'm thinking to myself, man, that album was like one of the greatest albums of all time because we had never heard something like that. And so I just, but you think about some of those rock, and hopefully we'll have a good, clean year, but all these rock and rollers, man, are now. When I heard Rod Stewart was turning 80 on Friday, and of course he's coming to town. He's
Yeah.
playing the new amphitheater down there, and I'm kind of like, I mean,
Let's hope.
I'm
Let's
58.
hope.
I just had, yeah, I know, right? I mean, I'm 58 and I just had, my neck done and my shoulder done and I can't sleep right. And, I'm getting the point now where I pass gas and it's involuntary. I mean, it's just like and then I see Rod Stewart turning 80. He's 22 years older than I am and he's still traveling, hitting the road. It's mind-boggling to me. I mean, I hope I hope I'm still doing Darkside the Pooch when I'm 80 years old. I really do. And I can do it from the comfort of my own home. I don't have to get a tour bus. I don't have to, meet fans. I really do, but it just makes you wonder, wow, they're doing something they really, really, and I didn't even mention Ozzy Osbourne, who's not even in the 80s yet. He's a guy that a lot of people think that should have kicked the bucket a long time ago, and I don't know if he'll ever tour again as well. All right, you always have some good stories for us. It's been 3 weeks since we did a show. Any interesting things come through your shop the last 3 weeks that you'd like to share with us?
Well, I mean, we're always taking things out of dogs' bellies. I
Yeah.
think we've done 3 of
You
those.
talked about the string the last time.
Yeah, I think we've done 3 of those since the last time that we talked. But I mean, honestly, like let's see, for the first time ever, I took the day after Christmas off and the day after New Year's off. And so when you like put the holiday in there and the half day, like I've been kind of gone a little bit, which has been great. I did remember, like, going back to our last show, you remember you talked about that movie Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
I only made it halfway through.
Really? Really?
Yeah. It was so it was basically like 1984 is kind of what Orson Welles kind of dystopian kind of deal. But I couldn't the scenes where the main character is like envisioning himself as like a hero,
Mm-hmm.
and he's winning the woman over and all this stuff. I couldn't finish it.
So you couldn't finish it just because, I mean, you just didn't want to see it anymore. You didn't want to, but you understood the weirdness of it?
Oh, it's so weird. It's so weird because it's set in a society that it just looks miserable.
Yeah,
it's just like it's a miserable, almost like a communist kind of socialist world where everyone looks the same and wears the same and eats the same, and then you have the people that are the super like upper wealthy class, and then the people that are just down in the dumps and no in between.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it's very kind of futuristic.
So did you make it to the scene with the fecal matter?
No, unfortunately, I did not. Maybe I would have liked it more.
That is one scene that is the scene in the movie. So since you gave it a half a shot, just go pull up on a YouTube, Brazil fecal matter scene.
Okay.
Because that was the scene that just, I'd never seen anything like it on film before, and it just I mean, I still think about it. I mean, I had nightmares about it. It was just disgusting. It was and it was certainly in the realm of the movie. But I'm surprised because you're into that. I'm kind of surprised you didn't because a movie like that, you've got to see the whole thing.
I know. I think I got bored with it, and there were I did watch I watched several movies over the break. Like I watched A Different Man, which was good. I watched Wolverine and Deadpool. I watched The Substance for the second time. I watched a movie from 2019 called The Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, and that is a very slow burn. It starts out really slow, and then the ending is just a total like mind melt. So I think that I had all these movies that I wanted to watch, and I started with Brazil, and I just got antsy. I was like, I'm not feeling this. I'm moving on.
All right. Hey man, you give it a shot. I mean, it's a weird movie. It is like one of those movies and I remember being with a friend of mine and there was probably some extracurricular activity going on with some drugs and stuff going on because it was 35 years. This guy's like, you got to watch this movie, man. And we sat there and I mean, I remember, and he's like, he made me sit through it. And I just remember leaving going, and it changed my life, man. I'll never forget the name Brazil. I'll never forget that. Yeah. It's just,
well, I mean, it was made in, I think the mid 80s. And so, if you always have to look at things through that lens. And I'm sure that there were not many things like that,
There were some weird things
ago.
back in there. Yeah, no doubt. All right. Tell people how they can find you, my friend.
Yeah, you can call us at 208-0301. You can email us, rossbridgeanimalhospital@gmail.com. And you can find us on Facebook.
We will talk to you next week.
All right.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.